Now we'll be moving to logical positivism. Logical positivism is a philosophical movement which originated in the Vienna Circle in the early 1920s. Vienna Circle was a group of scholars belonging to different domains. Aim of the Vienna Circle were logical analysis of knowledge, which they believed was the task of philosophy, and elimination of metaphysics through demonstration of its meaninglessness. The logical positivists, being neo empiricists, in their attempt to provide logical analysis of philosophical knowledge, rely heavily on linguistic philosophy. They try to widen the verifiable knowledge to maximum possible extent by bringing verification theory. The refined form of logical positivism can be seen in A.J. Ayer's philosophy. Further, using verification theory, they try to eliminate metaphysics by terming it as meaningless. Motivating factor for logical positivist. In Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, early Wittgenstein says that the meaning of proposition lies in its picture, which is language is the picture of reality, but there is dispute among linguistic philosophers regarding the nature and extent of verification. Hence, verification theory has always been subject to modifications. The verification theory of meaning. The verification theory of meaning claims that the meaning of a proposition lies in its method of verification. The meaning of a proposition in certain sense is identical with the way in which we determine its truth or falsehood, and a sentence has meaning only if such a determination is possible. Logical positivists treat only analytical and synthetic propositions as meaningful ones. Logical positivism says that validation of analytical propositions like red rose is red is not dependent on external conditions. On the other hand, in cases of synthetic propositions like rose is red, validation is dependent on empirical verification. In language, truth and logic are classifies empirical verifications into three groups: practical and theoretical verification, strong and weak verification, direct and indirect verification. The first, which is practical and theoretical verification, immediate verification of a proposition by sense experience can be classified under practical verification. For example, water is hot. If there exists a possibility of verifying some propositions not in present but in future, then it is theoretical verification. For example, there is water in Mars. Metaphysical propositions are neither practical nor theoretically verifiable, and that is why they are meaningless. If a proposition is verifiable either in practice or in theory, then it is significant. If not, the proposition is nonsensical. Strong and weak verification. Now, verification where the proposition conclusively determines their truth or falsity based on sense experience is called strong verification. If a proposition is verified in a probable sense, then it is called weak verification. Skillick's strong verification theory. The verification theory was first proposed by Skillick. He defined verification in strong sense. According to Skillick, only those propositions are significant if we can conclusively determine their truth or falsity based on sense experience. Difficulty in strong verification. Universal propositions in science can't be conclusively verified. For example, all metals expand on heating or water is H2O. Therefore, universal propositions of science will be nonsensical if we accept verification in strong sense. Schillick tries to explain himself saying that science is an important nonsense. A.J. Ayer weak verification theory, refined form of verification theory. Now, A.J. Ayer criticizes verification in a strong sense. According to him, not only universal but also particular propositions can't be verified in strong sense. A proposition is verifiable in weak sense if the relevant sense experience can make it probable. That is either probably true or probably false. In the proposition is verifiable in weak sense, then it is significant. So Ayer initially accepts only verification in weak sense. Metaphysical propositions are not verifiable even in weak sense, hence they are nonsensical. Lazarowitz's criticism of Ayer's weak verification. The term strong or weak is a relative one. If we accept verification in weak sense, we are bound to accept it in strong sense also. Thus, in the second edition of Language, Truth and Logic, Ayer says that there is a class of proposition which can be verified in strong sense. It is called basic propositions. It doesn't describe anything, it only records currently available sense experience. For example, there is pain in my teeth right now. It is verifiable in strong sense. Hence, Ayer accepts a proposition is significant if it is verifiable in strong or weak sense. Now, direct and indirect verification. A proposition can be said to be directly verifiable if it is an observation, statement, or verifiable directly through senses. It is raining or the wall is red, but there are propositions which are not observed directly. According to Carnap, in science, we are bound to accept much indirect verification for further developments. If we aren't accepting indirect verifications, then scientific theories will become nonsensical. Now, AJIR's alteration after Carnap's criticism of direct verification. According to AJIR, a proposition can be indirectly verified by adding one or more propositions to it. A proposition is indirectly verifiable if some experiential propositions can be deduced from it in conjunction with certain other premises. For instance, from the conjunctive proposition, if we can deduce a proposition which fulfills the following conditions, that is, A, deduced propositions must be directly verifiable, B, it should be deduced from initial proposition alone but with other related positions, then it is indirectly verifiable. Example A, when it rains, the pot gets filled with water. B, it rained. C, therefore, pot is filled with water. It means if the statement which needs to be indirectly verified, that is, it rained, is coherently connected with a directly verifiable experiential conclusion, the pot is filled with water, and a meaningful theory or premise, when it rains, the pot gets filled with water, then the proposition that it rained is indirectly verifiable. Objections from Isaiah Berlin. If this form of indirect verification is accepted, even metaphysical entities can be indirectly verified. This difficulty arises because there is no restriction at all put on propositions to be combined with verifying propositions. The result is that every sentence can be made meaningful by adding propositions to it. For example, 1. If absolute is present everywhere, the grass is green. 2. Absolute is present everywhere. 3. Therefore, grass is green. Here, conclusion, that is, therefore, grass is green, is directly verifiable. So, the proposition absolute is present everywhere becomes indirectly verifiable. A.J. Ayer's modification after Isaiah Berlin's criticism. In the second edition, Language, Truth and Logic, he revised his stand on indirect verifiability of propositions by placing restrictions on the class of supplementary propositions. Example, when it rains, the pot gets filled with water, which could be used to derive an observation statement from a given sentence. AJR says that supplementary propositions which are conjoined must be analytical, directly verifiable, or capable of being indirectly verifiable. Hence, R accepts a proposition is significant if it is verifiable either directly or indirectly. Now, Alonso Church's objection to Ayer's view. In Introduction to Mathematical Logic, Alonso Church criticized this revised formulation of verification theory. He presented a formula on the basis of which indirect verification of any proposition is possible. O1.O2 versus O3. Similar to S, where O1, O2, O3 are observation statements that are independently and directly verifiable. S is any statement, scientific or metaphysical. Church proved that S or similar to S can be indirectly verified. Finally, Ayer accepts he was unable to present the verification theory precisely. Criticism of Ayer's view of verification. Ayer's verification theory itself is not verified. According to Russell, there are some scientific statements which are neither analytical nor empirically verifiable. For example, due to explosion of big hydrogen bomb, humanity will be completely destroyed. Here, the question arises, what is verified, sentence or proposition? Proposition is always meaningful. Sentence may be meaningful or meaningless, but verification theory tries to establish that proposition is meaningful or meaningful. If experience means only sense experience, then how can we account for aesthetic and moral experiences? According to later Wittgenstein, purpose of language is not confined to describing facts. Language is multifunctional. We have to accept the meaning of other statements which are not describing any facts. Now, elimination of metaphysics. By metaphysics, logical positivists mean theory of reality beyond experience. Metaphysics generally deals with discussions regarding some entities which are not always non-productive in scientific terms. So logical positivists neither deny nor accept them. They are non-verifiable and hence meaningful in domain of science and philosophy. Now, ground of elimination. In language, truth, and logic, on the basis of refined form of verification theory, AJR says that a proposition is significant if it is either analytical or verifiable by sense experience. Hence, it is nonsensical. Metaphysical statements are neither verifiable by sense experience nor are they analytical. Hence, metaphysical statements are meaningless statements. They are not false but nonsensical. It doesn't contain any cognitive meaning, which is any informative meaning that is important for science and philosophy. For example, logical positivists treat God exists and God does not exist as equally nonsensical. Again, the term meaningless is not used from emotive point of view, but from cognitive point of view. Now, earlier attempts, sophists denied the possibility of metaphysics. Hume negates metaphysics entities on the ground that we cannot find any impressions of ideas of that. Now, Carnap tries to eliminate metaphysics on the basis of logical analysis of language. Now, Carnap's view on logical positivism, we can find two kinds of meaningless in metaphysical statements. Only that statement is meaningful, which is either a tautology, example 2 plus 2 is equals to 4, or contradiction, that is 2 plus 2 factorial is equals to 4, or contingent, like board is white. Metaphysical statements cannot be included in these three categories and therefore it is meaningless. In language, we find two things, which is vocabulary and logical syntax of language. For example, God is absolute or God is infinite. Although the word used are not meaningless, logical syntax of language may not be properly followed. For example, I think therefore I am. Here, the term am is a copula. It is used in existential sense, which is not correct. Also, the term am is used without any predicate, which is wrong. Now, conclusion, metaphysical statements are mere verbalism. They are pseudo statements as they don't provide any information. From cognitive point of view, they are meaningless. Now, criticism, J. Passmore, throw metaphysics into fire, sign goes it. Try to retain science, metaphysics enters through the back door. Alonzo Church, in Introduction to Mathematical Logic, he presented a formula on the basis of which indirect verification of any proposition is possible. Similar to O1 is O2 versus O3 is similar to OS. Similar to S, here O1, O2, O3 are observations, statements that are independently and directly verifiable. S is any statement, scientific or metaphysical. Now, later Wittgenstein, object is the bearer of the word and not its meaning. Language is the picture of reality, is a superstition. Language has multidimensional function. Its role is not confined to describing facts, not only in cognitive sense, it can be used in emotional sense also. Linguistic theory of necessary proposition. Now, logical positivism is an empiricist theory which tries to explain all knowledge on the basis of an experience. On the basis of sense experience, probable knowledge is possible. Necessary proposition, that is, analytical statements, are used in mathematics and logic. Logical positivists explain necessary propositions on linguistic grounds. Alternatives, including necessary propositions within the purview of empiricism, is a challenge for logical positivists. They are faced with three possibilities while accommodating necessary propositions. The first is necessary propositions are based on sense experience, thus, their origin as well as validation happens through experience. There is no factual content in the statement of logical and mathematics, thus, they cannot be validated through experience, but they can be validated on the basis of linguistic content. Some knowledge is innate, that is the rational view, thus, its origin and validation are also innate. Now, J.S. Mill's view, statements of mathematics and logic, that is analytical statements, are also based on sense experience. They are generalizations based on experience. They are called necessary as we never find any exceptions to this. Ayer's refutation of Mill's concept. According to Ayer, Mill was unable to differentiate between the origin of knowledge and its validity. It is true that all our knowledge begins with experience, but it doesn't mean that experience is necessary for its validation every time. When question regarding validity arises, a statement's validity can be decided either on the basis of experience or without experience. So two types of statements are possible, which are synthetic a posteriori, both origin and its validity depends on experience, and analytic a priori, origin based on experience but validity doesn't depend on experience. Now, logical positivists accept analytic synthetic dichotomy but on the linguistic ground, which is if truth or falsity of a statement is decided on the basis of meaning of words without empirical verification, then it is an analytical statement. For example, red rose is red. If truth or falsity of a statement is not dependent on the meaning of the word but on experience, then it is a synthetic statement. For example, rose is red or cow is black. It means that all analytical statements are a priori and vice versa. All synthetic statements are a posteriori and vice versa. Result is that logical positivists accept the second alternative finally. In mathematical and logical statements, there is no factual content, only linguistic content is present. That'll be all. We'll be starting with Edmund Husserl in the next video.